We apologize for this brief interruption in the show. As many of you likely know, the Higher Standard podcast is officially sponsored by TRANSCEND Company. TRANSCEND has been my longtime provider for both testosterone and peptide therapies, but they offer so much more. Whether you're interested in health, wellness, or longevity, it all begins with you getting your blood work done. A lab draw will help you get the numbers and establish your baseline. You can go to transcendcompany.com/THSP. That's transcendcompany.com/THSP. Or you can click the link in the show notes on any streaming platform and on YouTube. Fill out your information and one of the representatives will contact you to get your journey started today. Now back to the show. What things in particular is that?
That's a nice hat you got on.
A nice hat you got on. Although the hat matching the shirt's a weird vibe.
It's a
very.
I swapped with Haroon right before the show.
Very
Say
confusing.
what?
Say what?
And it's all like
Haroon came in thinking he's going to have a camera on him today, so he wore the hat.
I got to bring a wrench in and fix that thing so you actually have a camera on you. And then we won't cut to you at all because we want to just drive the point home that we don't like you.
Yeah.
Put a camera on you so you dress up and then
Works
just
for
not
me.
use it. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. Today we're going to discuss the reports and data that you should be looking out for that influence your life. Chris and I talk about a lot of these reports throughout every single episode, and we figured why don't we just put them all together into one to make sure that you're paying attention to these as they come out.
So in other words, all the stuff we talk about pretty frequently, it all comes from some of the data we're going to talk about today, but there are certain high point pieces of information that we routinely follow, that the Fed follows and other people that are really making kind of critical decisions follow too. But we thought if we laid these out for you and then obviously gave you some pretty good examples of some data that just came out when we get into my section, the sexier section, if you will, that perhaps you will understand why they're relevant and why we lean on them so hard.
Yeah, you'll be able to anticipate things that are going to be happening in the future, and you'll be able to
You can see the future?
You can see the future. I mean, we haven't been wrong yet. And you'll be able to make a more informed financial decision.
I get a lot of people in the DMs recently. I don't know why. In the last couple of weeks, I'm getting a lot more people sending us messages saying, hey, the economy is heading the direction you guys have been saying. You were right. You called it. And it's weird because I know that we've called a pretty dark kind of end to this financial cycle.
Yeah.
And people are starting to feel that way. So I've got really mixed emotions about it.
What
Yeah.
gift are you replying back with?
What GIF am I replying back with?
Is it GIF or GIF?
It's GIF. You say GIF because you're weird.
I do say GIF.
Yeah. Us normal humans, Haroon and I, we say GIF.
Why? Because if you just add a T, then it's gift. Is that why?
No, it's spelled GIF.
Yeah.
Okay, Haroon, you want to do the ABCs with him
So,
again?
no, so how do you spell giraffe?
Okay.
One
anomalous
One
word.
anomalous.
So do you call it a gift?
No.
You say gift.
All right.
Is it more like giraffe or is it more like gift?
Exactly. So the first report that we're going to talk about, which actually was revised recently, is the GDP report, right? The gross domestic product report. This gets actually published monthly but the one that's official by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that comes out quarterly, right? And this report is a broad stroke of the economy to give you a sense of how healthy the economy is doing. The last report that came out for Q1 of this year came in at a positive growth of 1.6%, which would be pointing to signs of we're in a very healthy place. I mean, everyone should be doing very well. But then it was actually revised down to 1.3%. And you're like, hold on, what's going on here? The Fed has been holding rates higher for longer, and we're still experiencing positive growth after this long when they've been actively trying to slow down the economy?
Yeah. So I think there's some good points to hit with GDP. The world tends to complicate it. Gross domestic product just sounds like one of those words and phrases that you're like, gross domestic product? Is it this big macro? Doesn't matter, okay? Let me break it down to you real simple, okay? If people are spending more money, gross domestic product goes up. People are spending less money, gross domestic product goes down or can go negative, right? Growing positive GDP means the economy is growing. Negative GDP means the economy is shrinking. And for all intents and purposes, if you have 2 quarters of shrinking GDP, a shrinking economy, meaning 2 negative numbers, that means you have a trend of the economy shrinking for 6 months, which is generally the well understood definition of a recessionary economy.
Right.
That is the reason why GDP is so important. Are we growing? Are we growing at a sustainable cadence? Are we shrinking? Are we shrinking over time for more than 3 months? You can have 1 quarter of shrinking and then another quarter of growth and okay, you're not in a recession, you just had a bad month. But when you start seeing the trends of 2 quarters, that's generally the recessionary kind of beginning. And generally speaking, some food for thought, gross domestic product growing at an accelerated cadence too fast can be very, very bad for the economy because guess what doesn't grow fast? Wages. Right? So if we're all spending a ton of money and the economy is just growing massively, but wages aren't going up, where is that money coming from? It generally is coming from credit and from debt, and it's generally going to backfire in a shrinking GDP, a trailing quarter. But we haven't seen that for a prolonged period of time. We'll get into GDP a little bit more later in the show and a little bit more about how it impacts things like the Fed decision.
Right. So under a normal set of circumstances, the Fed would be actively trying to hit a number like 1.3%. That'd be a good number for them to hit for positive GDP growth. But for what the Fed has been trying to accomplish by taming inflation, that is definitely a little bit too high for their liking. So the next report that we like to stay locked in on and tune into every month, first Friday of every single month, is the jobs report.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, which if you've been listening to us for some time now, you know that we take great exception to some of the numbers that get reported. The jobs report basically gets printed and lets you know how many jobs are being added in the public space every month. And some of those numbers are estimates, but in that you'll also get, wage growth, right? You'll get average hours worked, and you'll also get the big number is the unemployment number.
So there are different sources of information which really report on jobs numbers. You have the private employment numbers, right? So companies will report to people like ADP, who report back to the community in the world what they're seeing. But the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the unemployment numbers. And those are the numbers that you typically see. But you could be saying, well, Chris, wait a minute. There's revisions down in GDP. There's revisions down in unemployment. Yeah, because as data comes in, as they validate more of this data over time, they get more and more data to look at, and they can, further narrow down some of the assumptions they made in getting these reports out on a pretty consistent cadence. I know that sounds weird, but suffice it to say, lagging indicators, lagging data that comes in has multiple sources that come in, and sometimes they got to assume some of the sources that are coming in are going to hit approximate numbers, and when those numbers come in, they may not line up, so they have to revise numbers up or down, or in some cases, rare cases, they keep them the same. While this concept is generally understood, it's really, really important for employment data as of late, because what we've seen is a pattern and practice of these healthy employment numbers coming out and consistent revisions downward, corrections downward that aren't being reported and picked up in major media.
Absolutely. And actually, we're going to get into this report later on in the show. But what's going to be telling and what we're actually going to get into is there's a true misunderstanding right now with how healthy the labor market is and how this data is being represented. And we'll stay tuned into the rest of the show and we'll get into it. The next set of reports that we like to look at, and not only us, but the Fed likes to look at, and those investors in the stock market like to look at, right? Because it really impacts what the Fed's going to do, is inflation reports. That's no secret, right? We always talk about it. We talk about CPI, the Consumer Price Index, or PCE, right? Personal Consumption Expenditures.
Yep.
And I believe with that also gets tied in PPI. There's a Producer Price Index. That's more for businesses and what wholesalers are paying. So if you want to look into those numbers, because if their prices are going up, or if that number is going up, then that extra cost that the wholesalers or businesses are paying will get passed on to the consumer. Now, the PCE report is the main one that the Fed routinely cites, and they like to look at core inflation there, where they remove food and energy, and but they also like to look at CPI.
For a guy who constantly tells me I need to slow things down and clean it up, that was some high level shit.
That was high level.
Oh yeah, you just Haroon, that was a lot, right?
He did very well.
Yeah, that was.
He didn't even read anything off the top of his head.
Yeah, that was all.
That's what happens when you prep.
We did,
my guy.
We did. We've been talking about those reports for 2 years. So if I don't got that part down, then we got some problems.
I was thinking about making a joke again. taking a shot across the bow at Haroon, but I'm going to be a bigger person.
You're not a bigger person though.
Come on, bring it.
No.
So
I love you. I don't
you
want
saw.
to hurt
You
your
didn't see what I
feelings.
had the double
Bring it,
entendre
son.
there.
No, I got
You
double
didn't-
Bring it.
Oh, you were
Yeah.
being a bigger person by not accepting it again.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
Again, I'm being an equally larger person by not accepting the acknowledgement of said joke about his weight, which is immature and inappropriate.
That's really. That's not what I said.
That's what you said.
That's not what I
That
said.
is
All
what you
right.
said.
Chris is very mature.
I am extremely mature. I like the record to show.
All right. The next set of
No,
reports.
no, not done.
Okay, my bad.
Inflation, okay, is probably the most important thing you're going to see in the media reported on consistently. Ironically, as Saied alluded to, PCE is probably a bigger focus in some ways for the Fed, but they like to look at core inflation. Now, we're going to talk about inflation and core inflation and the importance of the Fed decisioning coming up a little bit later on the show. But today is June 11th that we record this.
Big day tomorrow.
Yes, the Fed FOMC meeting for June is taking place. The first day was today. Tomorrow is the second day at which there will be a press conference and they will announce their decision, which is largely believed to be a holding of rates.
I mean, largely is an understatement. It's a 99% chance.
Yeah, it's extremely high at this point in time. That being said, we have an interesting conundrum that has fallen upon us, which doesn't always happen. The inflation data is actually coming out the same day, just a few hours before the Fed press conference.
Which you already know the Fed is being privy to beforehand, right?
We assume as much, yes, but there is nothing official saying something to that effect. So the Fed will actually have fresh data and a fresh inflation report. Now, whether that data goes up, which is bad, or down, which is good, or stays the same, it all has implications on the Fed's decisioning, and it'll be interesting to see how that data coming out the same day they have a press conference may or may not impact their decision-making.
Right. So another thing that I neglected to mention about these inflation data reports is in these reports, you have components that are broken out, right? In CPI, you have things like food and energy, and then you got shelter, and then you got services, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're all broken down. They're all weighted differently to create this average. And it's not the same for the PCE report, at least the weighted averages,
Yeah.
right? For instance, in the CPI report, shelter makes up, I believe, 33%, 34%.
Approximately 33%, yeah.
But in the PCE report, and mind you, why I'm talking about shelter is because it has such a huge impact in the overall headline figure, which massively gets reported on. A lot of people only read the headline figure, and that could sway optimism into pessimism one way or the other, depending on what that headline figure is. So the PCE report that the Fed's like, we want to look at that one because that one over there takes shelter into, far less, like, they don't weight it as much. It's around 18%, 15 to 18%, I think.
And to make this very clear, shelter has been the biggest thing we have spoken about on the show for the greater portion of, I think, 2 years now.
Yeah.
Where we have said that just from a mathematical standpoint, to hit the Fed's 2% target rate, it is impossible to get there without a correction in rent and rent equivalent, which all feed into the shelter component. And just today, I don't think I made the show notes with the data. Maybe I did. You guys saw it. Tell me if you saw it. That for the first time ever, we know from a previous show that it's cheaper to rent in all 50 states than it is to buy. But what I thought was stunning was that the cost of homes, the shelter cost and all-in cost of maintenance, because obviously inflation has impacted things like maintaining your home, even for people who have mortgage rates in the 3% range, is higher than it is to rent right now. So even if you have a low rate and you were the benefactor of a low rate and you got in, you were able to buy a home, your total shelter costs are higher than rent right now, even with the low rate.
Absolutely. And I know
that's crazy.
That is crazy. You definitely know homeowners insurance is not helping out at all.
Well, and that's one of the biggest contributors to the problem is homeowners insurance. Obviously, in some states, you have tax implications. California has Prop 13. But all of your water, your gas, your utilities, that's all gone up. Your repairs and maintenance is going up because of the cost of your lumber and stuff like that. Or just go to Home Depot, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a handyman that you're frequently using, right? Like, his cost of living has gone up, so now he's going to charge you more for some basic work that he probably used to not charge you so much on.
I'm again refraining from making a joke as a reference to handyman.
Well done.
Yeah.
So now, since we were talking about the shelter components of the inflation reports, next up on our list are the housing reports.
Yeah.
That's existing home sales, new home sales. You're talking the permits that they're getting, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of these things will let you know how healthy the housing sector of the economy is.
Or lack thereof. There is a couple influencers, I will call them, that I follow on certain pages. The Real Deal is one of them that has some influencers that I follow, for example. And there's a number of them that make these over-the-top, ostentatious, in-your-face, bold, hey, the housing market values are only going up. It's always a good time to buy claims. And I have seen a very palpable and visible change in the rhetoric because you're seeing home prices being cut at a faster cadence than we've seen going all the way back up until, like, I want to say, like somewhere in mid-2022. So for the first time in approximately 2 years now, you're seeing the fastest decrease in home prices. And I think that's going to continue a trend because, look, again, if the Fed's going to hit that target rate of inflation, you got to see home values and rent equivalent come down. And people who are, I guess, opposed to this like to point at some of the housing reports and data reports that have come out in the past, call it 3 or 6 months. But what we know about housing reports, all of them, is they're essentially lagging indicators.
Yes.
That data comes in and gets corrected. So the same way GDP is revised and can be revised down or up, the same way employment numbers can be revised down or up as more certain data comes in, the most laggy of these lagging indicators are the housing reports.
The laggiest of
the
laggiest.
laggiest of lagging indicators. So those are often misrepresenting what you're currently feeling in the market. So if you see a housing report come out on the news and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like what's going on at all. Sure, you could be in a community that's impacted differently. Yeah, that's a possibility. But in most cases, you're actually feeling what's boots on the ground, and that's really reporting what happened 6 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times what you might be seeing is, national averages, like Chris just mentioned, that for you to look at these reports and try to figure out what's going on in your community, you got to look at it regionally, right? So it's really interesting, though, because if you're looking to buy a home, you would think that if values were going up, that would create more economic optimism. But given the times that we're in right now and buyers wanting to come into the market,
Yeah.
I think what they're going to want to see is actually prices to come down in order for optimism for housing to get back up again, right?
Well, there is a way. So I've been having this conversation with a lot of people, and I like to poke the bear, particularly on X, where I go to people who are housing pundits, who are really anti the housing market, and just kind of get a different feel for different perspectives. The most contra perspective I've heard about home values going down is, look, in the 1980s, we saw a lot of the same problems that we had today. You also saw them in the 70s. And the housing market took about 20 years to correct. That could absolutely happen. It could be a slow, painful drag on affordability over time. I certainly hope that's not the case. Obviously, there are implications to an entire generation of what would otherwise be homeowners that may not derive their net worth. But the contra to that, the contrary opinion to that is you have to have wages go up, rates come down, and home values come down to get to a reasonable affordability again. And having all three of those things happen at the same time just seems improbable.
Yeah, not very realistic, right? But in order for consumer confidence in this space to continue to rise, I think we're going to need to see a slow, gradual, come down effect on these values.
But housing is one of those things you look at. So when you see the housing reports, you see the data that comes from them, you're looking to see, okay, if housing is showing slower sales means more desperate sellers means lower home values means shelter costs go down, shelter costs means inflation will likely go down. So you can see why one of these reports comes out, the market has this intimate knowledge of how the data feeds into one another and goes, okay, employment starts are low, data showing low, values are probably going to come down. If they come down, that means inflation will come down. We get closer to the Fed's target. There may be a Fed cut in the future. So these are all the logical things that investors and economists are thinking through when they make their predictions, and that's why these reports are important.
Right. We're big fans of Redfin, so we like getting our housing data over from Redfin.
Yeah.
Next, the last two that I decided to throw on here are retail sales report and the manufacturing indices. These now might be a little bit more technical, but they might give a little bit of insight, right, into if you're looking at a retail sales report, it'll give you some insight as to consumer spending. Yeah. Obviously, if consumers are out there spending, right, you think there's more confidence out there, and that probably also means that the stock market might be doing well in those given sectors. But something that you also key point that I think we've all grown to know over the last, give or take 12 to 18 months, is that when inflation is higher, right, sometimes what will happen, and actually not even sometimes, a majority of the time, people go out and spend more because they're afraid of prices continuing to go up. So it only affects it more later. When prices start to come down, that's when businesses really start to get hurt, because now consumers might decide to hold on to their money and wait to see for prices to hit their rock bottom.
Mhm.
But when inflation is higher, consumers are actually making it worse by going out and spending, trying to buy it now before prices get even higher and higher. We saw this in auto loans.
Yeah,
right?
You did.
Yeah.
So to recap here and be very clear, if I were somebody who wanted to start engaging in this space and really get close to the data, I would look at GDP. I would look at inflation, specifically CPI and core inflation. Core CPI is just kind of a way to get familiar. I would look at the jobs reports and the housing reports with less emphasis, but understand how they mix. But if you just get those 4 reports with an emphasis on GDP and inflation, you will have a much broader understanding of what the Fed is looking at and what they're talking about in their press conferences and all the Fed head meetings and everything else, because they really reference all the inputs to this and they reference these numbers themselves. But if you just track those 4, you will have a good understanding of the Fed's primary responsibility, right? So control monetary policy vis-a-vis jobs and by economic growth.
Yeah, and stabilize prices, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and then the last thing also is, even if you get some of the data points and you don't necessarily agree with them because maybe regionally it doesn't make sense to you, or you know yourself and family members or friends that maybe lost their jobs, and you're like, wait a minute, I know people that are working 2 jobs. How can the unemployment rate be what it is? And this all doesn't really make sense. All you really need to know is, okay, find out what the data is actually reporting. And even if you don't believe it, you got to understand that whatever that data is reporting, the Fed is going to act on that data. So you got to understand that what the Fed is aiming to get, what they're looking to get. And even if you don't buy it, look, that's just the game. So you can plan ahead that way.
Yeah. So everything we're going to talk about tonight is going to really be somewhat of a focus on the data we just talked about. And it's going to explain a little bit more detail about what the current landscape is, and help you understand how these things are impacting the market today. And hopefully by the time you hear this, why the Fed made the decision that they did to hold rates.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, tomorrow's meeting they'll also give us the summary of economic projections for us to know what's going to happen the rest of the year, or what they predict will happen.
And I think that's going to be a big indicator. Saied alluded to that in the last show, but basically the summary of economic projections, one of the key things we're going to see there is, will there be 2 rate cuts, still kind of phantom for the future projected?
3 rate cuts.
Will there be 2? Will there be 3?
Oh, yeah. Will there be 1? Will there be none?
1? Exactly. So what their perspective is on the need for potential rate cuts in the future will be very, 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 very followed closely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and just anecdotally, if you're here this long, welcome to the #1 financial literacy podcast in the world. This is The Higher Standard. Sitting next to me, my partner in time, the one and only hat matching the shirt guy, Saied Omar.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Sitting next to me on my left is my partner in crime, Chris Nahibi.
And, well, behind the 1s and 2s, the man I would never make fun of because I'm a bigger man, DJ Haroon, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Ooh.
That was a little creepy. A little chair creak in the background.
No,
like
that was, I heard the chair creak.
Yeah,
You're right.
What was that about?
Haven't spoken in 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. Did you do your preemptive throat clear before you?
No, I didn't, because you bitch and complain about, I have
Okay.
to edit.
Look, I don't bitch and complain because I don't care about you. I bitch and complain because I do care about you. You do clear your throat a lot. As a guy who does it a lot, myself, I do it too. I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
I don't know how you don't do it during the podcast.
But here's the problem, man. You're looking at him like the shooter that's coming off the bench after sitting there for the last 20 minutes and now stepping into the game. Hit the 3, bro. You got it.
I love this guy.
Because you like sports references, I'm going to go ahead and give you one back.
Give it back to me.
To retort.
Yeah.
Collegially, of course. Kobe Bryant, if you were here, he'd say, shooters, shoot, go shoot.
yeah, bro. It's not the same. That ain't the same, bro.
He is the Kobe Bryant of podcast producing.
He's the Sasha Vujacic. He's sitting on the bench over there. He's stepping in, expecting to hit a 3.
Did you choose an ethnic name basketball player on purpose?
You saw what I did there?
Yeah, that was racist.
No, what?
There goes our YouTube flag again.
You have to call it out, bro.
All right, so getting into this week's show, The Kobisi letter, actually, it was kind of a weird data source. It was Kobisi letter quoting somebody else. I'll quote both of them when we get there. We're going to talk about tomorrow's CPI inflation data and why it is so important. We're going to move over to the U.S. yield curve, another indicator. We didn't really cite this one because the bond market is a little more complex. We've done previous shows on that, but we'll do more on that in the future and explain the yield curve concerns to you from more of a granularity perspective.
And why you should care about it.
Yes. It's not exactly what I would call a data source, but it is a source of reoccurring trending that is important for recessionary economies.
Yes.
Then we'll get into the Treasury yield curve being inverted for its prolonged period of time. We'll get into the longest streaks of low unemployment ever, which I will go out on the record and saying is complete bullshit, but we'll also explain that. The numbers of people working multiple jobs in the U.S. hit a near record, and therein lies something we like to call foreshadowing in the business. Home prices in the U.S. are up 47.1% since 2020. Our boy from Reventure, Nick Gurley, is back.
Gang, gang.
With an interpretation of Realtor.com data, and the market backs off hopes for interest rate cuts following a strong jobs report. See, that's what we just talked about, being put into real-world implications.
See what we did there?
Yeah.
We do put bows on this.
That's a bow.
Yeah, it is a bow.
Just put it on you.
And if you like what you're listening to, whether it's on Apple or Spotify, please head over and leave us an honest 5-star review. You guys are lacking a little bit. I'm going to be honest.
We haven't had a 5-star review in a long time.
My feelings are starting to get hurt because we're looking at the analytics. There's a lot of you listening. You guys aren't going over leaving us a 5-star review. What's going on?
We got a new one on Spotify, but again, no comments.
Yeah, people on Spotify actually hit us up and they go, "Yo, where can I leave a written review?"
Yeah.
You can email us at Christopher at higherstandardpodcast.com.
That is not my email.
Yeah, Chris at higherstandardpodcast.com or
Yeah.
Saied at higherstandardpodcast.com or Haroon at higherstandardpodcast.com.
Good luck spelling it, though. So we should probably just play some elevator music for 5 minutes while you go do that.
Yeah, I like
Just
that.
right here. We'll just break. Come back to you when you're done leaving your review. Okay, so let's talk about inflation and why what is happening tomorrow is so important. We did tell you that it's coming out the same day as the final day of the FOMC meeting, but this is going to be interesting. So the Kobisi letter quoted was really more of a legal exchange page called Kalshi, Kalshi. Kalshi?
Kalshi?
Yeah, it's a weird name. Anyway, the data here is valuable. Just about every large bank is expecting CPI to come in at 3.4%. But the markets tell us a more nuanced story.
Okay.
Predictions in the markets currently show that there is a 17% chance of inflation above 3.4%, according to Kalshi. CPI inflation above 3.4% tomorrow would mean that inflation has risen 3 out of the last 4 months. Obviously, not a good trend if you're trying to tame inflation, right? On the other hand, there is a 41% chance of inflation coming in below 3.4%, making progress towards a 2% goal, also a good thing, and given that's considerably higher than 17% chance. All while we have the long-anticipated June Fed meeting just hours after the CPI data is released. And Haroon, if you could pull up that chart below there. We have a chart here, and for those of you driving, we'll do our best to describe it to you. CPI May forecast distribution. Basically, think of this as like Las Vegas odds for where the market thinks CPI is going to fall in. You have approximately 3.2% of the market. 2% of the market that believes you're going to hit 3.2% inflation. Only 2% of the market thinks that. 39% of the market thinks you're going to hit 3.3% inflation, below 3.4%, below the current consensus. 42% thinks you're going to hit 3.4%. So obviously between the 81% there, that's the majority of the world. You're going to think you're going to be somewhere between 3.3% inflation and 3.4% inflation. But there is 11% at 3.5% and 6% at 3.6 plus. So I think it's a pretty healthy lock. You're going to wind up somewhere between 3.3% and 3.4%.
Yeah, absolutely. And why this matters, right? I get it. It's really granular. We're talking about, percentages here, right? Really, really small percentage difference between all these. But the forecasts are important because once it comes in, you're now going into a territory where there are people more optimistic that we're getting closer to the end, or is the Fed's rhetoric of holding rates higher for longer going to be even now higher for longer because we're not hitting these predictions? That's why predictions like this matter.
Saied and I were having one of the normal angry conversations that we have throughout the day about economic policy and data. And I was saying, there is a weird ass backwards world where they actually come out tomorrow and increase rates 25 basis points because they don't feel like inflation's moving the right way.
Yeah, that would cause chaos though.
It would cause chaos, but I would say this has been a bolder, more chaos-prone FOMC than I've ever seen in my entire life. But I will say they've always disclosed there would be looming chaos in previous commentary. And to do it without any commentary would be a bit stunning. I'm not saying it's probable. I'm just saying there is a small chance of that being probable, but I think it's very, very small.
So actually, two other economic data points or things that are forecasting data that we neglected to touch on the top of the show that we routinely like to look at, right, is Bloomberg's world interest rate probability. That kind of lets you know what the Fed is going to do or they're predicting what the Fed's going to do at the next meeting.
Yep.
That's the one Chris likes to look at. I like to look at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Both of these of which, when you've gotten this close to the meeting, they have not missed.
Yeah, and for those of you who might be Googling some of this stuff,
Like it's like Kobe in the fourth.
Basketball reference. You're going hard today.
Going hard in the paint.
Oh, God, Chris, don't make jokes. Don't make jokes. Be the bigger man.
Be the bigger man.
Bloomberg's world interest rate probability is often abbreviated WIRP, W-I-R-P, and Chicago's Mercantile Exchange is often abbreviated CME.
CME, yep. So both of those have not missed. So like I said at the top of the show, Chicago Mercantile Exchange has actually given it a 99% chance that tomorrow they won't be doing anything. And by the time you're actually listening to this episode, that will already have come out.
Yeah. So as we talked about earlier, the U.S. yield curve inversion. Now, there are two real focus points of inversions. There's the 10-year 3-month inversion, so the 10-year Treasury versus 3-month Treasuries. Or there's the 10-year 2-year Treasury inversion that most people focus on. So
Right.
you were going to say something?
I was going to say, so when you're thinking about this inversion, sometimes this gets a little too technical for people, right? It's hard for them to understand. All you really need to know is in a healthy economy, the way it's supposed to be, right, is that the 10-year is supposed to be higher than the 2-year.
Yeah.
Right? Or
If
the
I'm
10-year.
giving you money for a longer period of time, it should return more interest to me.
Right. And we're talking about the interest rates, right? And that's just because there's more of a risk. There should be more of a risk 10 years from now than 3 months from now or 2 years from now, right?
More uncertainty in the long term than there is in the near term, if you want the technical language.
Right. And that's the healthy economy, right? There has been a yield curve inversion where it's now flipped the opposite way. For Chris is about to get into how many days, but now it's the complete ass backwards way.
Ass backwards. That's a technical term, right?
That's like the Celtics winning a championship. That should never happen.
So for any of you out there going, Chris, Saied, I don't get it. Can you help me understand with an example that makes a lot more sense? Yeah, I can do that for you. Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're going to get married, okay?
Oh, okay.
You should have a lot more uncertainty about what your wife's going to look like in 10 years than you do the day you get married, right? The world's a strange place when you get married and you're very, very, very uncertain about what's going to happen in the next year. But 10 years from now, you're fairly confident things will be okay.
This is so good. This is such a good analogy.
That's why the markets are weird,
Yeah.
right? You don't get married to somebody when you're uncertain what they're going to look like tomorrow.
Yeah.
You get married to somebody when you're uncertain what they're going to look like in 10 years from now.
Yeah. Or what how about we go with personality, right?
Yeah.
You should be able to expect how the person you're going to marry is going to be acting in 3 months from now or maybe 2 years from now. 10 years from now, I don't know what your hormones are going to be like. I don't know. You might be going crazy.
Wow, right to the hormone thing, dude.
I mean, that's the thing.
I mean, that's insensitive,
it's a thing, guy.
Wow.
Or my hormones. How about that? It could go both ways.
I'm not sure you have any hormones.
Look at the hair, bro.
Yeah.
The hair shows you all the testosterone.
Well,
It's just in my back.
if you feel like you might be questioning your hormones, it's a great time to get your blood panel checked. Go to transcendcompany.com/THSP. It's transcendcompany.com/THSP. We are lovingly sponsored by them. I am on all the things. I've lost over 20 pounds now in a combination of weight loss focused peptides, longevity focused peptides, and metabolic focused peptides, all of which I share openly. You can go to my Instagram page where I often share that information. But it all starts with a blood test, and you go to transcendcompany.com/THSP, pop in your information, you get a blood test, and you figure out whether you're healthy or not, and then you figure out how to optimize.
Yeah, links in the show notes down below. You're sleeping better too, right?
Yeah, 7 hours and 57 minutes last night.
And you got one of those beds that give you like a rating.
Yeah, my sleep score last night was in the 90s. I've routinely been in the 90s. My wife, not so much. Yeah, she's actually only doing like the aesthetic.
It's crazy that you guys are sleeping in the same bed, but like her movement won't affect your numbers.
No, yeah, the sensors are very different. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, 8 Sleep is a great. We should get them to sponsor the show.
That's as we were talking about this,
Yeah.
I was like, hold on here.
Yeah, fantastic beds. I recommend them to everybody. I know the guys at Mind Pump use them. I know like Peter Attia and those guys use them. I mean,
Peter Attia, I love that guy.
Yeah, stud. If you use like wearables to sleep, it's really hard in my mind to sleep with something on my wrist, like watch. I don't want to do that.
I've never done that. I know friends that do that, and I'm like, that's a bit much.
I want everything off me when I sleep. Okay, joke time. I understand. Chris, just contain yourself.
Power through.
All right, Charlie, our good friend Charlie Bilello. He's talking about the U.S. yield curve inversion, and as a reminder, yield curve inversions typically precede recessionary economies. Our yield conversions that we're in right now are special. Okay, how special, you might say? Well, the U.S. yield curve inversion, in this case, the 10-year to 3-month Treasury comparison. You compare the 10-year Treasury to the 3-month Treasury, has now been inverted for 589 consecutive days. That's the longest inversion in history. That's a very long time.
Is it really the longest in history?
That is the longest yield curve inversion in history for that one, the 10-year, 3-month.
Okay, that's what I was going to say, because I got to hear too, and why this is so important, right, is that the yield curve has inverted before, right? And it has called every recession since the 1950s. So every time it's been like this, since 1950, there's been a recession.
Yeah.
Right? And that recession used to be defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, right? Which we had, but they decided to change the definition in 2022, right?
That is correct.
From January to June, there was 2 consecutive quarters there.
Gotta love the White House.
Yeah, gotta love the White House, bro.
Thank you, Biden administration. Hugs and kisses.
Yeah, we're not gonna do this, right? But the time between an inversion, I had it here in my notes. A recession has varied from 6 to 24 months. Okay, so when this has inverted, right? On average, it's been. I know that's a big gap, right? 6 to 24 months. But as we're getting closer and closer and closer, you're like, okay, well, this train's never late. It's going to come. It's just a matter of when.
Well, I will argue that you had 14 years of artificial interest rate deflation, the essentially double what a prosperous economy normally would be because we've artificially propped it up. I would expect the yield curve inversion to be longer. I would expect there to be more of a delay because we kept things artificially high for a long time. So the downward stroke, if you will, using all the words, do your best. The downward stroke is going to take a lot longer to get there. It's not going to finish for a long time. Okay?
The downward stroke, bro, really?
That's an adjective. If you can't contain your juvenile emotions, then I just can't have a collegial debate with you about
Come on, man.
Stroking yield curves, okay?
So think of it like this, okay? If you're going to the sink to turn on the hot water and the cold water, you're trying to get the right ratio, and it doesn't come on right away, and you turn it on and you wait and you wait and you wait. Eventually, that thing's gonna come out piping hot. Piping hot.
I honestly don't know what that was referring to. Like I'm trying to. I know the joke. I'm
Bro,
just trying. What was that supposed to be in reference to?
That's supposed to be reference to this, right? Like if 14 years of artificial interest rate deflation, right? You turn that hot knob on. What's gonna happen?
Oh, okay.
You go too far. You see what I did there?
Yeah, but you didn't walk that through. Haroon and I were both lost. We were like,
I expected you to get there quicker, though.
I take a long time, buddy.
No, not me.
You got to work with me for a long time, my friend.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's up to
This is gonna be fun editing.
Yeah.
I was just looking at your face the whole time. You're like, what? Where's he going?
Yeah, I'm like, what the hot water?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. If you piece it together.
Okay. Well, there's also another yield curve inversion, which we've spoken about a couple times. The U.S. Treasury yield curve inversion has been inverted for 702 days, the longest streak in bond market history. This being the difference between the 10-year and 2-year Treasuries, has turned negative on July 6th of 2022. It has now been negative for 22 months. And if you follow Said's timeline, in theory, if you were to go by the traditional timelines, in about 2 months from now, we should be in clear recession territory.
Absolutely, yeah. So
which may still be plausible.
It very well could be, yeah. That means so that would be the Q2 report of this year, which would probably get reported when in July.
Yeah, you would technically need 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, or the National Bureau of Economic Research to say we've been in a recessionary economy since January 1 of 2022 in order for that to be the case. But
But given what the Fed's been trying to accomplish by slowing down the economy, given where this yield curve inversion has been at for the last over 2 years, if we have one negative quarter of GDP, the pessimism will be not just creeping in, man. I mean, the stock market is going to take a hit real soon.
Yeah, to borrow another one of Said's hot water analogies, it effectively would be like 50 Cent trolling P. Diddy. It's going to be in there, and you're going to see it, okay?
Every day.
Every day, and he's not going to stop.
Wake up in the morning, that post is ready.
Yeah, it's his job now.
Like
his main job is trolling Diddy, and everything else that he does is just anecdotal, so he can troll Diddy.
What is the backstory? So I know he was offended that Diddy offered to buy him clothes. I saw that clip. Yeah. Okay, what else is there? What other bad blood is there?
I'm pretty sure 50 Cent knew what he was doing and couldn't publicly say it. And I think that he used the clothing example, like a grown-ass man offering to buy another grown-ass man clothes is weird, as his way of saying, like,
that's a weird dude.
Like, I know he's a weird dude. Like,
yeah,
this is symbolic of all the other weird stuff he's doing. I'm just using clothes to tell you that story.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's sick like that.
He is sick. Yeah.
Like, he's gonna give you the Jedi mindfuck.
He is a good Jedi mindfucker.
Yeah.
That is what he does.
I respect it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
The previous record for a yield curve inversion, for those of you who may be wondering, was made in the 1970s and lasted for 624 days. Woo, starting in August of 1976?
Eight.
Yeah, it's a little blurry to me. In the past, each time when the yield curve inverted and then unverted, a recession followed. Not sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not every once in a while.
Right.
In the past, each time when the yield curve inverted and then uninverted, a recession followed. We haven't gotten to the uninverted part yet.
Right.
Food for thought. And just while we're going down this little path of being, I don't know, somewhat thoughtful and pragmatic about historical data and what it means for you, if every time this has happened, you got a recession, shouldn't you feel like we might be heading towards a recession?
And shouldn't it be reported on more?
Yeah, and I love when I talk about this like on social media platforms like X, and people are like, bro, when are we going to start looking at these outdated metrics and start focusing on the world has changed and some of this stuff doesn't mean what it used to? Or here's a converse theory. Just I'm going to throw this out there to you, guy, behind an anonymous account trolling everybody with a picture of, I don't know, Condoleezza Rice. Or it's still right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with history here.
Yeah. If it's been right 100% of the time since the 50s, I'm in.
Meanwhile, the Fed started slowing its balance sheet, shrinking quantitative tightening from $95 billion to $60 billion a month at the beginning of June.
Yeah.
Bond markets continue to make history. We've got a chart, but it's irrelevant. Let's be honest. You look at this chart, you're thinking to yourself, that's a lot of peaks and valleys. Suffice it to say, we are in a valley, and we're not going to see a peak anytime soon.
Yeah. No. So, I mean, hopefully, we've been ringing the alarm on this for quite some time. Hopefully, you've been preparing. And look, like, I know Chris and Odin like to paint me out as the doom and gloom guy from the last episode.
Don't have to try very hard.
Right?
I'm not to yourself.
I'm not going to do it. Hey, look, come on, what is he doing right here? But what I'm saying is, this is an opportunity. You got to view it as an opportunity, right? Well, that was a glitch. You hear that?
That happens every show around the 43-minute mark.
Around the 43-minute mark?
Yeah, it's
Wait,
for some.
really?
Yeah, it does every show almost. I don't know why. There's some kind of weird technical glitch going on back there. I used to think it was you just eating chips, but no, not you. Not that. Not,
Like you
not,
chipped
not,
the tooth?
No, for some reason, every time, and I think it's the audio converting over or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But you got to view it as an opportunity. And look, if you're one of the lucky ones that doesn't get affected by with your job or your employment in the sector, right? Then look to take advantage of some of these opportunities when they present themselves.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities, but I think it'll take a couple of years to get there, frankly. And we have to figure out what this yield curve inversion looks like when it gets out and what the economy looks like as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
So from Investopedia, this is one of the longest streaks of low unemployment ever. Now, to that, I say, because it's fucking lies.
It's not true.
It's inaccurate. It's misrepresented. We're going to get into why in a little bit, but let's give you some context here, okay? Going back to January of 1951, there were 35, oh God, 35 consecutive months of low unemployment, right? We are now at 27, which ties November of 1967, and then there's nothing close to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a lot of months. It's effectively going in close to 3 years in order to meet the January 51 number.
And that low unemployment Chris is referring to is anything sub 4%.
Yeah. So U.S. workers are in the midst of one of the best job markets in history. Doesn't feel that way, to be honest with you. They haven't had this much job security since the 1960s and haven't seen a longer stretch of unemployment since the early 1950s, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. High demand for workers since the economy began to recover from the pandemic has kept widespread layoffs at bay since 2022. I've heard plenty of fucking layoffs. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
How is that the rhetoric? Did somebody pay for this?
Who wrote this?
What crack pipe are these people smoking?
Definitely in the fintech space, in the tech space.
I hear about layoffs every day now.
Right. Yeah, and it's only going to get worse if we're saying that you can expect negative GDP at definitely within, between Q2 to Q4 of this year, then that number is only going to get higher.
Well, according to Investopedia, that streak is at a risk of coming to an end. Friday, when the Bureau releases its data for unemployment in May. Employers have been pulling back on job openings, suggesting that a rise in unemployment could be around the corner. However, forecasters expect the rate to hold steady at 3.9%, still below the 4% that Saied pointed to. Now, I'm going to go quickly to the next article. It's also from the Kubisi letter. We started off the show with that. I thought it'd be compelling to go back to him for a little bit, because this really highlights something that we have talked about historically. And for a reminder, I'm going to give you a refresher, okay? We have long said, Saied, myself, and Haroon, that the paradigm has shifted. What once was a single income earner household where just the husband could work or the wife could work and pull in enough money to support a household, that has largely changed. There was a paradigm shift to dual income households. The husband had to work, the wife had to work, or the husband and the wife and wife, they all had to work, okay?
Or people holding multiple jobs.
Yeah, whatever you're into. Well, that became problem number 3. The second paradigm shift is, I believe, Saied believes, and Haroon believes, that now you're seeing more and more people with side hustles. Social media has certainly glorified this, or part-time jobs in addition to their full-time jobs. So you're having 3 jobs for every 2 people because people need it to pay for the cost of living, which has risen at an unprecedented cadence in a lot of ways.
Right. Sorry, if I could just add on to that real quick.
Right in the middle of my tirade.
When that does happen, that really masks the underemployment figures, right? It masks the problem with unemployment. It masks the problem with wage data, right? So all of these things get affected, ultimately making this jobs report number, not
completely bullshit.
Yeah, it's no longer valuable, right? And unfortunately, the Fed's still looking at this data and using it to hold rates higher for longer, because part of their dual mandate, right, is to make sure that there's maximum employment. And if they're seeing a jobs report that's showing unemployment rate at 4% now, then hey, they're only going to cut rates if 2 things happen. Okay, they're going to cut rates if they think that inflation is now coming down fast enough at a fast enough cadence to where they're going to hit their target. Okay, which it's not happening. It hasn't happened. We remember January, February, March, inflation was actually creeping up a little bit. And then April and hopefully tomorrow, May, it'll stay relatively stagnant. Okay, so they're not cutting rates there. The only other way they're going to cut rates if they're going to rescue a catastrophic event in one of the financial markets. Okay, and look, unemployment's hitting 4%. Nothing to rescue there. No problem in housing. Nothing to rescue there. Right? What else? Everything else, GDP, positive print. Nothing to rescue there. So they're not going to cut rates because all of these reports are coming in positive.
Well, and you could argue the data is manipulated, but let's take a little bit of a victory lap, shall we? That's the 3 of us here.
I love victory laps.
Yeah, well, you're about to take one. From the Kubisi letter, starts off with, wow. That's the intro. The number of people working multiple jobs in the United States hit a near record of 8.4 million in May of 2024. That's a jump of 3 million people since the pandemic low in 2020. This is exactly why part-time employment is skyrocketing up, plus 286,000 jobs in May. All while full-time employment fell by 625,000 jobs over the last month.
Huge problem.
The reality is that many Americans are struggling and working multiple jobs to, quote, fight, end quote, inflation. Why is there such a big disconnect between data and reality? Something you've seen us question on this show going back years. This chart that Haroon pulled up it's a screen grab from Bloomberg. It really shows you the number of people holding multiple jobs in millions, and you can see it's at least going back to the mid 90s is at its highest point. And it's on a pretty steep 45-degree angle incline, and it doesn't seem to be changing at all. And with the cost of living, with the amount of credit card debt that's out there, the amount of non-household debt that's out there, I don't see how Americans survive without doing this.
Right.
So
I had 2 jobs a few years ago.
yes, I'm very much aware. I was very disgusted by it.
Right. So if
Now you've got 2 jobs because you work a podcast, so I guess it all works out.
Well, I don't get paid. Do you get paid? Shit.
No,
I'll talk to HR real quick.
that's you.
that's you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. If a significant portion of the population is holding 2 jobs, the Fed has to at some point acknowledge this data point, which they never do. Reporters in the room in the post-game press conference need to ask these questions and say, look, it's clearly obvious that no longer is one job enough for people to earn a steady living. We did go back and check out the last episode where we talk about, I think it was episode 233, right? Where we talk about how much you would need to earn to be able to afford, an average home across the U.S. It will blow your mind. And that's not stabilizing prices.
Yep. Well, and to Said's point, and the segue game was on point. Shocking stat of the day from the Kobisi letter. I've been quoting them a lot as of late. They've had some good data that's come out. Home prices in the United States are up 47.1% since 2020. 47.1% since 2020. The median home is now selling for $420,800, which means that the median home is now selling for $135,000 more than it was in 2020. All as the median mortgage rate has roughly tripled from 2.7% to about 8%. Yikes. On top of that, home price growth so far this decade is on the verge of surpassing all growth seen in the 2000s.
Bro, you got to read that again. That's a wild thing. That's a wild stat.
Home price growth so far this decade.
This decade. How many years has this decade's gone by so far? 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
This decade is on the verge of surpassing all growth seen in the 2000s.
What?
Yeah.
Come on, Fed.
That's a problem. During that time period, housing prices soared 47.3%, including 80% spikes never before the 2008 market crash. So, yeah, that's fuck.
Buying a home is officially a luxury.
Well, and here's the problem: is if you look at the chart, pull up the Fred chart if you don't mind. This is from the Kobisi letter, but they stole it from the Federal Reserve. This is a 45-degree incline. That's really not healthy or sustainable. But if you look at the tail end of this here, if you're driving, obviously just close your eyes and imagine while you're driving. Get your autopilot going. This is a damn near vertical incline at the end in the 2000s.
Well, I mean, you look at it, right? I mean, okay, 45-degree angle, you think, okay, that's one thing. But you got to also compare this to what happened with wages during this time.
Mm-hmm.
That wages figure is going to be a little bit more flatlined. Because a lot more, right? So I remember, I think the home price to income ratio used to be only like 3 times the amount of someone's income. Now it's over 6.
Yeah.
I mean, wages aren't keeping up. So one of 2 things are going to have to happen. Like Chris alluded to at the top of the show. Maybe this is going to take a 20-year correction if there's no housing market crash.
I sincerely hope not. I really hope that's not the case. A 20-year correction would be very, very, very painful for wealth building.
And devastating, right? Devastating for the middle class. Or you got an outdated 30-year product that might get updated to a 40-year product, meaning traditionally you get a home loan and the term of those loans is you pay it back over 30 years, right? That's how you're able to manage your payments and get the payments down enough to where you can afford a home.
Mhm.
But maybe they push that out to 40 years. But now, why is that such a dangerous thing, Chris? I know one of the things is we already know that's going to ultimately like increase home prices, right? But 40 years for someone to repay a home, I know you can't discriminate based on age, but you're like, bro, like people are gonna die before they pay off this loan.
Yeah, well, and the sad reality is I think no one's going to care by the time you get to that point. They're going to be so thirsty to buy a home and so desperate to start building wealth that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to start with the GSEs, Freddie and Fannie, saying that they're gonna be buying and selling on the secondary market 40-year mortgages, and then everybody and their mother will originate them.
Yeah, exactly. Because they basically set the standard.
Yeah, they set the standard. Let's run through the next couple quotes. The next quote here is the last one I have. We've gone a little long in the tooth with quotes, but we wanted to give you some valuable information. Obviously, given what's going on this week, and by the time you hear this, I think this look back will help you, I guess, digest what the Fed has done since that time. Nick Gurley, he's the CEO of Reventure's interpretation of Realtor.com data is interesting. Price cuts on the U.S. housing market just surged up to the highest level in 5 years, with 22.1% of listings in May of 2024 receiving a price reduction. That's nearly 3 times higher than the pandemic low and rising fast, signaling a weakening housing market where prices are likely to drop in H2 2024.
That's interesting because it was just a month ago. I remember that 33% of the homes being bought were being bought above list, which was on the higher end of the normal range.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing a sharp shift now in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing, frankly. I know that a lot of people who are the housing real estate professionals out there will say this is bad for business. Yes, it is temporarily bad for business, but you got to look past near term and look long term at what this means. If your clients can buy homes cheaper, they can build wealth. They can continue to buy bigger homes later on. They can scale and grow their financial wherewithal. So your clients will become wealthier over time. They'll be able to build wealth. They'll be able to buy bigger homes from you, more homes from you, second homes, vacation homes. This is a good thing for the economy. And I know a lot of people don't want to see it because they don't want to see their housing prices go down. Those housing prices going down, if you own a home, only matter to you if you're planning on selling. And if you're planning on selling right now, where the hell are you going to buy?
I know. Where are you? Exactly. So wait, you just mentioned something that got me thinking. Would you ever buy yourself a vacation home?
I have contemplated on a number of occasions, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What were you thinking? I know back there was a time where you were thinking about Big Bear, right?
Yeah, my wife and I really enjoy Big Bear. She really likes it. I don't know. I go back and forth on it because for me, it's not an income generating thing. I'm not a big fan of Airbnb. Not to say that I have a knock on it, but if I have a second home, like a vacation home, I want it to be mine.
You wouldn't want to rent it out all year long and then you go to it during the summer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for me and my wife, I don't know what our next home purchase is going to look like. A lot of what I thought I wanted has changed a lot in the last couple of years. And look, we do this show once a week. We talk about the data pretty frequently. I'm in the banking space. I'm not really comfortable with where the economy's heading.
Well, what has changed? You said a lot has changed over the years. So like where are you going from? Like what did you like before and no longer like?
I wanted a bigger home, and I wanted like a vacation home, and I wanted a place to store my cars. And, I was thinking about all the material possessions and everything else like that. And now I'm so concerned about where the economy is heading. I would rather have the security of having the affordable, conservative lifestyle that I have now.
Yeah.
Than I would having the luxury of those things. Like I see people right now who are buying a lot of really high-end things. They're making good money. They're on top of the world. That's all well and good. Good for you. I'm happy for you that you can get those things. I personally am scared of where the market's going and what that means. You don't have to be scared. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just saying for right now, I don't want to buy a Rolex. I don't want to buy a high-end car. I don't want to spend egregious amounts of money. I want to maintain our quality of life and keep our expenses where they're at.
Yeah.
And I want to do that for as long as it takes for me to feel more comfortable. And right now, yield curve inversions, all this uncertainty in the data, the Fed acting in ways that we're essentially gambling on, it just seems there's too many variables that are inconsistent and unknown for me to feel comfortable spending the money to do those things. So it's just essentially wiped from my mind right now.
Yeah, because you gotta think long term, right? You're not gonna if you're looking to buy a home or a vacation home, you're getting a longer term loan on it. You don't know what's gonna happen.
I'd rather have that money just in case that I don't have to spend somewhere else. And I am uber conservative compared to a lot of my peers, and maybe that means I'll be less wealthy over time. But as far as I'm concerned, right now is the time you get smart, you pay off your debt, you be thoughtful, you be pragmatic. And trust me, I will be the first person to come on the show and be like, fucking buy, man. Now's the time. Deals are out there. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Cash money. But now ain't that time.
Now's not the time.
Yeah.
Haroon, what do you got for us?
You don't want to go into your article?
We already touched on it, but on this, I had an article in here from CNBC that the market's backing off on hopes for interest rate cuts following the strong jobs report. So, look, I had something here as far as the cuts go. So in December of last year and in March of this year, we had the summary of economic projections. Basically, after the Fed meets, they come out and they let you know what they predict they're going to do throughout the rest of this year and actually next year and the following year. They kind of let you know. Now, look, they don't got you can't hold their hand to the fire. They're allowed to modify that.
Yeah.
And I mean, they should be able to modify that as long as they are communicative, right? But if they don't cut at this meeting, there's only 4 more meetings this year.
I know. It's wild.
Right? I think it's July, September, November, and December.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I keep that in mind. There's only 4 more meetings after this one. We already know they're not cutting tomorrow. Okay. They have said that they're going to cut 3 times this year. So that means, are they going to backload it? Right? September, November, December cuts? Or we're going to find out tomorrow, and this is going to, when this airs, it'll already come out, that they're going to modify their predictions to maybe only 2 cuts this year. And that's going to cause some serious problems.
Well, number one, the Fed's going to lose credibility. They've now been on the record for saying they're going to do something. They're going to say, well, we're data dependent. The data isn't moving our way. And the world's going to say, okay, look, you guys said you were going to do this based on the data you were seeing. If the data changes and you now are going to do different things, then no offense, all this shit you're saying to us isn't valuable.
Right. So why it matters if they lose their credibility or not is this. We can no longer trust what you have to say. Now everybody goes in reserve mode. Now everybody starts to panic a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Now there's more pessimism in the markets. You'll see stock prices start to come down. You'll probably see people selling their homes. There'll be way more layoffs. Businesses have literally been holding on by a thread. There's these zombie companies out there that literally are just making it by, man, waiting, praying for a rate cut, right? So that's a big problem. So we're going to find out tomorrow. That's the thing that everyone's going to be tuning in. Forget what Jerome Powell says in the post-game press conference. We know they're not going to cut. What are you guys going to do the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Haroon? Poppy culture?
All right, let's do this. Spinoff for The Office. You guys excited about this, or
I didn't even hear about it.
Fun fact, I've never seen an episode of The Office. I've only seen like clips and bits on social media.
Okay, so during the pandemic, my wife and Haroon watched The Office. I don't know if Haroon had already watched it and he was just rewatching it with my wife.
That was my first time too.
It was your first time too, and I'll be honest, I wasn't really into it, right? But I would occasionally watch an episode here or there. Absolutely hilarious. I follow their like bloopers page on Instagram. It's fucking hilarious, man.
Is it still on television, the show?
I mean, it's just reruns, yeah.
Oh.
But no, it ended 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, never saw it.
There was a British version, right?
That was the original version, yeah. It's with the guy that
Ricky Gervais?
Yep.
Oh, it's Ricky Gervais, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
so it's probably a good show. So is the whole premise that it's just what like a normal working office is like?
Yeah, but like
It's like a reality show.
all the stereotypes are heightened and enhanced, right?
Mm.
And ultra extreme.
Yeah.
And this guy's like the world's like shittiest boss, but also the funniest boss.
So it's basically Office Space. But
Yeah,
just
basically,
sitcom.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd be down to watch that. Yeah. I love Steve Carell. Is it Carell or Carol?
I could go the rest of this is going to sound again, inflammatory. I could go the rest of my life not watching a traditional television network sitcom and be totally okay with that.
Oh, you don't like the writers, huh?
I am effectively. I've evolved. I've transcended traditional television. I'm a streaming platform guy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a YouTube guy for sure.
Never thought I'd be that guy. I used to look at like these kids and like these SROs up in San Francisco who only had internet and no TV in their room, and I'm like, I don't get it. Now I get it.
Really?
Yeah. You don't need a TV.
No. Watch
I got X for my news. I got, Netflix for my TV show.
I got X for my nudes.
See, and again, I can't have a serious adult conversation with you guys anymore. This is where it always goes to something.
I don't know, man. I think
we got rid of cable too. We have YouTube TV, and that's only for sports.
You got rid of cable?
Yeah, we got rid of cable too.
No, you didn't.
I swear to God.
I'm on Saied's.
Yeah, where we
YouTube
share a plan.
Really?
Yeah.
Want in?
YouTube TV. You want to? We'll split it 3 ways, baby.
No. I don't do it 3 ways.
Why?
Not enough hands.
Too messy. I mean, if you're sticking this late in the show, honestly, you deserve all the jokes.
Oh, I was being serious.
Yeah, I know you're being serious.
All right, next one. Why some major artists are suddenly canceling shows and in some cases entire tours.
What is this?
And that is because consumers don't want to spend the money right now. I thought that was kind of interesting. Wanted to hear you guys' thoughts.
I can't remember who it was that I saw that just canceled her tour.
J-Lo.
Yes, J-Lo. And it was because...
What's she doing? What's she doing a tour for? Old music?
Well, she also had a terrible movie come out, and apparently her and Ben Affleck were arguing a lot about her movie, so she spent a lot of their money on this. And he was trying to be supportive, but I guess behind the scenes he was like, look, this is not going to be a well-received movie. And it wasn't. So she kind of bombed there. And now here she is. And let's be honest. I'm going to say that what you're not supposed to say. I'm going to say it out loud.
What?
Uh-oh.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know J-Lo.
What?
I know.
Shocker.
I
I've never heard you say that.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
All the listeners like, oh, shit.
Yeah. But you have a black card. But yeah, despite popular belief, I don't know J-Lo. She kind of comes off as a bitch.
She definitely has bitchy vibes, bro.
There's a vibe there, right?
There's a big vibe.
She could be this biggest sweetheart in the world. I don't know why. Like I just.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I could put all my money on the fact she's not the biggest sweetheart in the world.
She could be. I don't know. She could be incredibly sweet. I know
Jenny from the Block, bro. Jenny from the Block can't be sweetest girl in the world.
I know a Puerto Rican girl who has a very similar upbringing, who's probably the nicest girl I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah,
she has bitchy like looks.
Yeah,
but she's a sweetheart.
Right
so
now.
That could be J-Lo.
I'm sure she's done a lot of amazing things. Okay, I'm sure she's given a lot of charity to a lot of charitable foundations.
I don't know.
Yeah, but honestly, I can bet my money she's not the sweetest girl in the world. I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with that.
I feel like despite what I said, yours is meaner.
I mean, how you gonna do A-Rod like that, bro?
A-Rod looks a little weird.
Oh, she did Ben Affleck dirty too the first time.
The first time? This is the second time?
Yeah, and let's be honest about this too, Haroon. You know what I'm talking about because we see social media and, Saied just plays like he's on it. Ben Affleck looks unhappy every time he's photographed with her.
He only looks happy when he's next to Matt Damon. That's the only time he looks happy.
I get it. Dude, he looks so frustrated every time.
He's also got that wild back tattoo. Like, that's some deep, like, he's got some demons, bro.
Of course he's got demons.
What do you mean, of course? Why would he have demons?
It's Hollywood, man.
What do you mean it's Hollywood? He wasn't one of those childhood actors, was he?
So now you know Ben Affleck?
Well, I mean, he did come with black card.
He was at the Centurion Lounge?
Yeah, Ben, what up, bro?
What's up, dog?
And then he married J-Lo and he wasn't allowed to talk to me anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because, she's not nice.
Right.
All right, 20 years on, William Hung looks back on American Idol audition with no regrets. Do you guys remember this guy?
This is what brings pop culture in for you?
And
wait, I just
William Hung?
Wait,
bro,
do you guys remember him?
Are we getting our pop culture from NBC News?
No, presidential veto.
Yeah,
absolutely
bro.
not. This
I mean,
is not a recession.
A+ for name though. William Hung. I mean, A+ for the name.
I can't have a serious conversation.
All right,
What
so
the fuck are you
bro,
doing
what are
tonight,
you doing, bro? This show, he was not prepared for pop culture segment.
He did NBC. He did this all while we were on the show.
Okay, what's this?
He just went to NBC and pulled up shit that looked pop culture.
This one I actually brought up because I want to know I think I know Chris's answer. So anyway, Target's Pride collection features a Hitchcock-inspired bird figurine that appears to be selling out.
Mute out Hitch and just said cock? Features a cock-inspired bird figurine.
So anyways, this is a collectible thing right now, apparently. People are going to Target buying these out. Did you grow up buying anything? Like, did you have a collectible that you guys had?
Oh, I see where you're going with
I
this.
try to connect shit, man.
That was
I
a-
tried doing
that
this
was a
twice.
wild-
I like it. I
like-
like it. I like it.
Both
Okay.
times. Fuck you, Chris.
The
Fuck.
thing, I can see him pushing himself away from the desk. Fuck this
He
job.
is away from the desk. It's 'cause you brought out a cock-inspired bird collection.
The thing I collected, I definitely collected basketball cards. That was a thing. The thing I wish I could have collected was the shoes that we could never afford. Basketball shoes.
I collect them now,
Yeah.
which has become a really disgusting habit. I mean, it's at a point now of just egregious overspending. But man, when I was a kid, we all grew up kind of poor, so like I didn't have the money to really collect anything.
Yeah.
And my parents, as much as they maybe want, my son does now, which is weird.
Really, what's he into? What's he collecting?
Oh, dude, he's really into like all the Marvel characters, so he's got a bunch of those.
Oh, dope.
He has an entire cooking like play kitchen thing. He collects
Nice.
stuff. I mean, it's such a different lifestyle he's growing up in than what I had.
Mm.
I had to have a conversation with my wife. I said, honey, I know that we can buy him all these things. The question is now, should we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And how do we? So we were trying to set goals and set barometers, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's wild. But now I collect shoes, if that counts as something. I buy all the Jordan 1s I like.
I remember
So collect cars.
there was a little stretch where I was
No.
doing the whole Pogs thing. Did you ever get into Pogs?
Never got into that.
That's what I had.
Dude, like-
basketball cards and pogs.
So listen, I started collecting Pogs for a little bit. I'll tell you the story.
That was the stupidest thing to me as a
It
kid.
was the dumbest. And looking back on it now, I'm like, I can't believe I got tricked into this shit. Right?
There's no value in this.
It was so fucking.
You basically
lame.
bought the early days cryptocurrency.
That's what it was. That
Yeah.
you're absolutely right,
Oh, our poor parents just
bro.
paying.
I
to
had a
buy-
I had a cool. Do you remember there was a brand? No, God,
Oh God, you know the brand still?
no. Okay, I know where he's gonna go with it. Don't go. There was a different. It was a different bad boy. Okay, but it was a bad boy brand.
Bad boy.
Bad boy. But I had a slammer. Okay.
I bet you did.
Yeah, okay, the bad boy slammer. Right.
Was it called P. Diddy?
So it was called. Now they call him the Diddy.
Yeah, the Diddy Slammer.
The Diddy Slammer. But so I collected them a bunch, and I'll never forget. There was a tournament. I don't even know how I found out about this tournament. I think one of my friends was telling me about it. It gets good. It gets good. The tournament, guess where it's at? It's at Knott's Berry Farm.
In the hood.
In the hood. At Knott's Berry Farm, bro. You had to buy a ticket to get in. Right?
Bro,
I'm looking back on it now. I'm like, damn, I can't believe my poor parents actually did this. I can't believe
In LA too, so it was a commute.
Yeah, I'm looking back on it now. I'm like, damn, I can't believe my poor parents actually did this. I can't believe I made them do this. So we go to the tournament, okay? I don't remember how many people were in this
Were
room.
you even good, or you just
No,
Hell no, it
you're
wasn't
about
good.
to find out. You're about to find out real quick how good I am.
He's all ass. No
Imagine
hands.
being okay. Imagine paying to get into the World Series of Poker. I think it's like 10 grand, right, to go play.
You're gonna. This is how you.
This is the reference. Yeah, check this out. Now imagine, I was the first one out. The number one.
Wait, did you,
Literally the first
wait,
one.
hold on. Did you tell your parents like, yo, this ends in like 4 hours? Come
No,
back
no.
and
So
pick
he's
me up?
my dad is literally standing outside the room, right? It was like one way in, one way out type of thing. And I literally come walking out, bro, after 10 minutes. Because they're explaining the rules to everybody, blah, blah, blah. Literally, I play 5 minutes, I lose. Mind you, I don't know if you know how to play Pogs.
I have no idea.
Okay, so
I don't want a primer.
you have no. This is
Skip it,
good. This is
skip it.
good. No, this is why I stopped playing completely. When you lose your Pogs, the person who beats you takes them. It's theirs to keep.
I was gonna ask, did this tournament follow that rule too?
Bro, the guy beat me, kept all my Pogs. All I had was my bad boy slammer, right? And then I lost. I got kicked out, and I had to take the walk of shame home. I was like, I'm done with this. Like, get me out of here. This is not my thing. And then I didn't. I was so sad. I was so embarrassed to face my dad in that moment. I was like, I don't even want to be in Knott's Berry Farm. Let's go home.
This is exactly like a rug pull in cryptocurrency.
This is what it
This
is.
is exactly what you get.
This is why I don't trust cryptocurrency.
That was the OG cryptocurrency rug pull.
Now you understand my hate for crypto
And Diddy
and Diddy all in one.
slammed out.
All right, Chris, did you watch this movie?
Yes, I did. Furiosa.
Was it good or
Is
no?
that Carson Daly?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little different these days. I thought it was okay. It certainly wasn't good as the Mad Max remake with Tom Hardy.
And is this a prequel or a?
It's a prequel where basically they're explaining how she got into the picture and what like her beginnings were, and there's like a pseudo cameo from Tom Hardy's, like, I'm guessing it's a stunt double in the movie, but if you saw the Mad Max remake with Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, okay, that had a lot more of the original vibe. What people don't realize from Mad Max franchise is it started off with like a normal movie in Australia, and then like the whole situation as Mad Max essentially devolved into what we now know it to be.
It's crazy. I've seen them. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did it go from that to where it is now?
It's incredibly. It's a weird de-evolution of the storyline to get to where you're at today. It's not. You can just tell like they're like, okay, we made the first movie, and they're driving like police cars on like the open highway. It's not like it's like this, right? And then somehow in Mad Max 3 you get this, and then you get a remake of like the third one, which it's really weird. This did not capture in my mind the same ethos. It was okay. It wasn't terrible. Joanne and I, my wife, we left and we're like, it's okay.
It's whatever. We caught the Garfield movie.
I'm sorry, what?
The Garfield movie. Adam was into it. Yeah.
You know that Bill Murray originally felt that he was bamboozled into doing the Garfield movie, and that's the one movie he regrets doing the most, because they told him that Joel Coen, the writer, did it, so he thought it was one of the Coen brothers, so that's why he was going to do it. But it was Joel Coen, like a Saturday Night Live writer by the same name, and they knew that he thought it was the wrong one.
Oh,
so they kind of bamboozled him into doing it. Yeah.
Damn, son.
Saied, I thought you'd like this one. Charles Barkley doubles down on petty nonsense regarding Caitlin Clark. Really bad publicity for the WNBA.
Oh, what is he saying? Charles Barkley doubles down on the petty nonsense.
Okay, let me be clear.
What
is
the petty nonsense?
What?
She's done a lot for the game. What has she done?
No, dude. Okay, first of all, let's just go to the obvious Caitlin Clark issue here.
What?
They did not select her for the U.S. Olympic team because they felt that her fans would be a distraction when she didn't get as much playing time as they had all hoped that she would get.
Okay, really stupid marketing on their part. I mean, at this point for the women's game, they should have put her in just to showcase the game.
Where she doesn't get on that team. And to say that, hey, it had nothing to do with your skill set of playing the game. It had more to do with the fact that your fans would be really upset that you didn't get as much burn as because you're not. Dude, you got like Lisa Leslie on that team.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, what's happening here
but what do you mean
but
what's the hate on Lisa Leslie, though? Because you understand
she's old for the sport.
Lisa Leslie's not playing, bro. What are you saying? There's no way she's on.
She's like 47.
She's not
I'm
playing.
pretty sure she's playing.
Dog.
Bro, I don't know.
I didn't want to call you. I didn't want to call you out. I was like, what are you talking about? There's no way she's playing.
I think you want to say Candace Parker.
Man, I don't know. I barely know the NBA. I sure shit don't know the WNBA.
Okay, so there's actually there's a real problem with some of these WNBA players. A lot of them are upset, bro. They're taking shots at her in the game.
Oh yeah, where are her teammates though?
No, she has teammates that are standing up for her, but what they're not understanding is, look, she didn't intentionally like do this to where I want Nike to pay me X amount of dollars and ESPN to now, bro. They're literally showing her games before NBA Finals game. That's never been happening before. So it's like, why she's showcasing the sport? You guys should be idolizing her.
People are petty, man.
And that's what everyone's complaining about. All the players are like, yo, we were here before her. You guys should be highlighting
okay,
us.
embrace her, right? Like, I don't understand. So when Larry Bird was getting all that love and hype, when him and Magic were growing the sport, what players weren't out there saying, before Larry Bird, we were here, fuck him. No. What are you talking about? She's a generational talent.
Yeah, I was reading an article yesterday talking about Caitlin Clark and the girl from LSU, her rival in college. I forgot her
Angel
name.
Reese.
Yeah, her. They were like, they should have done that with the WNBA, having them two as Larry Bird and Magic.
Here's the problem. She is very, very good, but she's nowhere near on her level. And plus, you can't market a tall girl like that the way you can Caitlin Clark. You got all these little girls coming up thinking they can play like Caitlin Clark.
Have you heard some of Angel Reese's comments though? They're wildly inappropriate.
Yeah, man. Like, she's like, I'm good. Like, I'm good too. I'm like, no. First of all, no,
you don't say that. Yeah. Okay. The market tells you that.
Yeah.
And if, no offense, if the market's focused on her and not you, then you got to prove up.
Absolutely.
That's it.
No, you're not. First of all, whatever. I'm not gonna start hating on Angel Reese like that, but they should be embracing her for propping up the sport.
That's what a lot of the players are saying too. Yeah. Even LeBron came out saying like, "Yo, you guys should be appreciating what she's doing to you guys."
Yeah.
And last one, Elon Musk threatens to ban Apple devices from his companies over the OpenAI partnership.
Saied and I talked about this.
I know you got a lot to say.
I got a lot to say. So
where was I?
Where were you? I don't know.
Eating.
Probably. In a healthy, nutritious way, though. So Elon Musk comes out almost immediately after Apple announces that they're going to have an OpenAI ChatGPT partnership, which enables ChatGPT to perform functions on an iPhone. And he says that Apple should come up with its own AI, and that, well, frankly, he doesn't trust that they're going to keep your data secure and safe. So he then turns and says in a subsequent X/tweet, whatever the hell you want to call it these days, that if they do that, he's going to ban X on all Apple devices, and anybody who walks into X's headquarters will have to put their phone in a Faraday cage so that it can't get any communications.
Level of petty here.
It's incredibly high, the level of petty. That being said, so then I decide I'm going to go down the rabbit hole, right? Deep into the dark hole. And while I'm down there contemplating what I'm going to do down in this deep hole, I run across articles. And one of the articles I ran across was an article on OpenAI's founder and CEO, Sam Altman. And apparently it was a rare thing that he was seen without his blue backpack. So I went further down the rabbit hole. And apparently he carries around a blue backpack, which has a kill switch in it. In the event that OpenAI's ChatGPT platform goes rogue, becomes sentient, he has a backpack that he can hit a kill switch and completely shut it off.
In case it goes like iRobot.
So at first, I was like, Elon Musk is batshit crazy. And then I'm like, is he though? If you have to carry around a backpack in case homeboy goes rogue on you?
That's got to be a publicity
That's
stunt,
weird.
dude.
And then let's just be honest here. If we're saying that we're going to reach a point where generative AI is going to be about the level of intelligence of a human in about a year or two.
Yeah.
If not more intelligent than a human. You don't think this system will find a way to kill your kill switch? I mean, I've seen every sci-fi movie about this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we don't win.
Right.
Terminator?
They've already solved that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
iRobot? I've seen it all. Every situation
That's quantum computing.
where there's no, it's quantum computing is a bit different. Where there's a human and there's a robot that has some type of AI, they kill humans.
But you don't think AI is going to be able to utilize quantum computing?
I'm sure at some point in time that'll be a thing.
For sure, it's going to be a thing.
Yeah. There's no point in having passwords.
So wait, let's wrap this up with this. So, did you and I used to be heavy into these Apple keynote speeches.
Wow, you're gonna trump the pop culture guy's ending of the show with an Apple keynote? It was a really good keynote, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was a really good keynote.
Okay, so you paid attention?
Yeah.
So I plugged into this later. Haroon, did you find out about any of the updates?
Just something with the watch.
All right, some of this shit is dangerous, bro.
It's pretty crazy. I was like, they're gonna do what?
All right, biggest problem for a lot of people out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be able to record your phone call conversations.
Yeah, and use it.
And use it. Yeah, it's not like you got to sign a consent.
Yeah,
they'll just be able to record.
So when you're talking about your buddies about the porn you saw, even though nobody saw that you saw it,
yeah,
you're gonna know.
Yeah, be careful who you're talking to. Be like, hey, yo, bro, remember last night was
We're
crazy.
only recording it so that we get a better understanding of your AI architecture, so we can properly modify your phone to be more organic to your usage.
Right. So that's a problem. I know you're not gonna like this update. You're gonna actually hate this update. So Chris has a real bone to pick with anybody that uses the tap back feature.
I don't like tap back. Fuck your tap backs.
If you tap
That's
back,
the most insulting response to humans.
If you want to fuck with Chris, hit him with a tap back.
Tap back is petty and dirty
I'll
shit.
be honest, I tap back on you all the time.
If you give me a thumbs up emoji tap back, just know fuck you is coming. Okay?
Yeah,
fuck you.
So now the tap back feature, you can add any emoji you want, and best believe you're getting a lot of eggplant tap backs.
And you can make AI emojis now to tap back with. Did you see that part?
Let's go.
So like someone was like, "Oh, relaxing day," and it had like cucumbers over the face of the AI. You know, mine's gonna have like just all sorts of inappropriate shit on it.
I mean, eggplants all day, right? Let's
Yeah.
go.
Can you show an eggplant with white spaghetti sauce, Alfredo sauce on it?
It's a dish.
It's an Italian response.
It's a
hey, how
dish.
you doing?
Right. Let's see. They got the ability to lock the apps with the Face ID. Okay, whatever. That's a little sus. What else you
You
got?
can
here?
change the colors of the apps.
You can change the colors of the apps.
Yeah.
You can schedule texts. It's pretty gangster.
Oh, you know I'm gonna do that to everybody.
Oh, right. 100%. I
Yeah.
have to. What's
I'm
the first
scheduling
one?
text to everybody.
What's
Huh?
the first one you doing?
Oh, I'm for sure scheduling like random. Hey, what's up? How you doing? And then I want to follow it up with something that's like, I need you to do me a favor. And then I'm going to follow it up with something else.
Oh, yeah.
And just see who bites. I need $1.
Mine's every morning, 7:04 a.m. Fuck you, Chris.
Yeah, bro. These not these telemarketers, but these guys that hit you up on Instagram are gonna go crazy with that shit. I wonder if it's gonna you be able to do that in the apps too.
Bro, I had the craziest Instagram DMs. I had a guy the other day hit me up, and he was like, "Hey man, I'd love to connect and talk about how we can combine and get some synergies." I'm like, "Okay, what do I do?"
Synergies. Why do they? It's like they all know the vernacular, like to use.
He's like, "You're an entrepreneur." I'm like, "What? What do I do for a living to make money?" He's like, "What are you talking about? You're on Instagram as an entrepreneur."
Oh my God.
I'm like, you can't even go to Google and just like search my name. Like you can't, it's in the title on my Instagram page. It says the company. I mean, what? Why?
What do you guys, try harder, please.
And I'm like, look, dude, let's make this simple. What are you going to do for me? He's like, we're going to connect and we're going to figure out how we can help each other. I said, that doesn't tell me what you're going to do for me.
Yeah.
Why? He's like, well, let's get on a phone call. Let's talk. And I'm like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, tell me what you do. And basically he's a mastermind coach. And I'm like, okay. And how does you being a mastermind coach going to help me? And he's like, well, you can subscribe. I said, I'm sorry, subscribe to your mastermind and
This is the society that we live in now, bro. We got mastermind coaches teaching other people how to become mastermind coaches to sell a coaching something on whatever page that they're on. This is the hustle now.
You know how many times I go to somebody's page and I go, wow, the content's cool. That's cool.
That's cool.
They're selling a course. Cool. What do they build a business on? Selling a course.
Selling a course. And we did some rough numbers on some of these people.
About selling a course.
We did some rough numbers on some of these people. And I'm like, God, why do we have morals? Why do we do this? Is crazy.
Bro, there are people in our orbit that are doing this now. And they're going around as like, oh, I'm a founder of this and I did that. And they say all the buzzwords. And I'm just like, God damn it. Like it's at the point now where nobody wants to actually work and have a career. They just want to say they worked and had a career. You know that girl who's all over the internet right now about some serial entrepreneur? She's like the new female equivalent of Alex Hormozzi. And she said she worked at like Morgan Stanley.
Oh, yeah. I know her.
Sachs.
Yeah. She heard whoever's doing her content's good. They do good stuff.
They went down the path on her. Somebody decided to dig it up.
No way.
She said she spent all these years. Like she worked there during the Great Financial Crisis. She didn't. She said that she worked like 3 years at Goldman. She didn't. She worked like 1 year. She said that her job was a high level one. It wasn't.
What's her name, Haroon? Can you pull her up?
Oh, I don't. Dude, how you can tell me? He doesn't know no basis to go look for her.
Girl.
Yeah, we give him nothing of tangible value.
Come on, man. Alex Hormozzi equivalent.
Yeah, she's like a female. No, just don't worry about it. I'll come up with her name on a different show. I don't want to give her that kind of love.
That kind of love, and we'll hit her over the head like we
did. I mean, the crazy part about it is she's like everywhere. Cody something.
That's right.
Yeah,
that does sound about right.
Whatever her name is, yeah. Cody something.
Ex Goldman Sachs VP. This one? No.
Cody Sanchez.
Damn, look at you, bro.
Cody Sanchez. It's female. That's it.
Oh, right there. Go back. I think is that one, right?
Yeah, she got kind of like a weird structured jawline going on.
Weird structure.
There you go. That's her.
That's her.
Yeah.
Found her.
All over social media.
Yeah, she's really good with the buzzwords, bro. And she speaks really confidently and she sells herself really well. But what is she selling? What is she like? Is she selling courses too?
I have no idea. All I know is
she went on this guy's podcast.
She's been on some heavy hitter shows.
This is the problem with this, right? That guy's podcast is a legitimate podcast that has had plenty of CEOs. I think his is Diary of a CEO, right? Great podcast. Apparently, they have real intimate, deep conversations.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's great. It's a great podcast.
A great podcast.
This chick's been on everybody's podcast. But let me tell you right now.
It legitimizes her. That's my problem.
Dude, a couple of guys who were really into finance that I know well went down the path on her. They work for the companies that she said that she's been at, and they're like, it's all cap, bro.
Dang, all cap, no facts?
Yeah, they're like, 90% of what she said is bullshit. Yeah, they're like, no.
Wow.
And then you're like, okay, well, no wonder why the only place I've ever seen you.
She talks about like she understands the intricacies of like starting a business.
Dude, 1.7 million followers. And dude, there was a guy who literally was like just pissed off and tired of it and just went down and broke it all down. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Looks like she got Ozempic face.
Yeah, that's mean.
I'm just saying, being honest. That's the thing. I'm not making that up.
And here's the thing: like, if you listen to someone's content like this and you're like, okay, they motivate me, good for you. Good for you. I'm glad you're happy. But be motivated, be motivated with some context. Just because someone tells you all the flowery shit doesn't mean they actually did it.
Yeah.
If you want an emotional high, you're very beautiful. You're handsome. You're talented. You're smart. Go out and crush it.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Sponsored by The Higher Standard.
Did you guys see that Bradley Martin slap?
Dude, bitch slapped the shit out of it.
Rightfully so, though. Hell yeah.
I said that to...
That's how you deal with people, bro. Like that? Come on. That was beautiful.
Let's be honest. He was insecure about his hair.
He's been insecure. That's well documented.
But he just fought Logan Paul.
Who?
Bradley Martin. They had like an off-camera fight. They fought it out. They literally got together.
Literally went to a UFC gym and
fought because they didn't like each other. They were talking shit on each other. They went to a UFC gym and they fought, and they recorded the after where they hugged it out.
Oh, like sparring, like legit sparring.
Yeah, like legit got in a ring.
He does. I know. I've seen him like roll around and do some Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Bro,
but
he's 260.
Yeah, man.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, I saw him actually have the confidence to even take the challenge of going up against Brian Shaw, the world's strongest man.
You see Brian Shaw in the ring with those two kids?
Yeah,
bro.
No.
You see what happened in the press conference before that?
No.
One of these guys who's like the size of maybe like his forearm walks past, right? And the other one, they think they're like twins or they look alike. I don't know what the deal is. One of them was sitting down already, so he walks past Brian Shaw, grabs his water bottle, opens the lid, sits down, and starts drinking out of it.
The audacity, bro.
And Brian Shaw's like, "You better give that back," and he doesn't. Bro, he fucking destroyed those two dudes.
Did he? Good for him.
He picked one up and slammed him, hit the other one in the jaw, knocked him out. I mean, it was wild.
Before they even got like 4 hits in.
Oh yeah, he just destroyed them.
Goddamn. All right, last thing before we wrap up. I know we're at an hour 30 in, but fuck it, who cares?
I mean, Haroon's editing, not us.
It's on 1. We're good.
Yeah.
It's been on 1 for an hour.
Yeah.
So Adam's been at basketball camp this week.
You gonna go the wholesome dad route now?
No. I got a question for you. No, not very. Actually, complete opposite. Complete opposite. No, seriously. Real talk, as the kids like to say. Keep it a buck. So he's at basketball camp, and this basketball camp's intense. Okay. He's probably worst one there, maybe second to worst one, but he's trying hard. He's really giving it.
He's probably one of the youngest kids. That's why.
No, they're kids in his age group, classmates of his that are there that are really good, but it's okay. He's not being discouraged, which I love. Okay.
Okay.
There are kids there that are exceptional.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes they get grouped together and they don't like being grouped with a kid that's not up to their level. So they talk some shit. Here's my dad question to you.
Yeah, that happens.
Okay, now we know that this is basketball. We've all played, right? We know that this shit talking isn't going away. This isn't like This isn't like playground at the school. If somebody's mean to you, ignore them, don't play with them, go find some other friend. This isn't that. This isn't gonna go away. You have to
part of the game, man.
You have to learn how to deal with this and have a smart enough response to come back with. Okay, dad, question to you: if your son was playing basketball like this, and he tells you some of the shit that these kids are saying, what would be your initial knee-jerk reaction? Would you tell him how to handle it? Would you boost his confidence? I mean, Adam wasn't discouraged. I just asked him, how was it today? Were there anybody giving you some shit, you know? And he's like, there were a couple of mean kids. And I was like, really? What'd they say? Okay, if you know my son Adam, he's like all bones, okay? He's literally got no meat on him. The kid needs to eat more, all right? This kid, I almost said something messed up, but this kid actually called Adam. He's like, you're fat. He didn't know what to say. He made fun of him. He said, you're fat, right? Adam's literally bones. I was like, my wife, when he told us, my wife and I, we started laughing hysterically. Like, that was the worst thing he could have said to you because it's so not true. And then Adam started laughing. We're all laughing about it, right? But a big part of me, man, it took a lot out of me to not be like, hey, man, let me kick you some game. Let me tell you what you say to him next time. If somebody says something like that to you,
slap him.
Say this. No, don't slap him. You got to outwitty him, right? And I wanted to, but I was thinking it over, and I'm like, he might be too young for this. I don't want him to start thinking like, because he's not going to be able to differentiate between inside the court versus outside, like back at school. And then it might trigger too much. So I refrained.
So you did go the wholesome dad route.
No, I was like, I stopped at it because we were able to laugh it off. But what would you do? I mean, at some point.
This has happened to my son. It's happened a number of times.
Okay. No, but in the confines of sports?
Not in the confines of sports. Well, jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, they'll routinely pair you up with somebody who's bigger and stronger than you, and you got to figure it out. And if you're like my son and you're a little bit bigger for your age, you generally get an older kid too. And yeah, there's some shit talking that happens. I was a big shit talker when I was playing basketball at some point. I don't know if I deserve to do it or not, but I did it.
It made. Let's be honest. It made playing more fun.
It did, but looking back on it, I probably hurt a lot of people's feelings.
Yeah.
And in my defense, I grew up playing in an urban area where people looked at me as the outlier because I didn't look and play like everybody else did, and you got to find a way to defend yourself, and you build thick skin. And then part of that is like you don't take shit.
Yeah.
So I didn't really start anything, but if you ran your mouth to me, I was going to keep going back at you.
Right.
I think kids got to figure out their own way of dealing with it. So
their own way, really? I mean, as they're like, I feel like
because you can't tell him to be disingenuous. If he snaps back at a kid, and that's not who he is, then he's not going to feel comfortable. He's going to feel more uncomfortable that now he's got to act a certain way that's not naturally him.
No, but I also want to let him know that if you do snap back, you got the green light to snap back as long as it's not wildly disrespectful.
He's got to figure that out on his own. And that's what I tell Carter all the time. Like, Carter was getting bullied for a while. There's a kid who, like, tries to bully him. And they always try to come up to me and, it's like, Daddy, tell him to do this, tell him. And I won't do that.
No.
I'm not here to solve your problems. If he's not hurting you, you're not hurting him, and you feel like you're getting bullied, then you need to say something.
Right.
I'm not going to tell him what to say or how to say it. You got to figure out how to handle that.
Mm.
And no matter what he does, I'm going to support him.
Right.
I'm saying, I get why you did it. Here's why you shouldn't do this, or here's why you did a good thing or bad thing or whatever. But kids got to figure that out, man. And I think that a lot of that adversity builds character, and a lot of the luxuries that we've been able to give our kids have taken away some of the adversity. So those rare instances where adversity comes up for them to develop character, I'm going to let them figure that out naturally.
And let them solve it, yeah.
It's hard as a parent to do that. It's taking your hands off the wheel and trusting that autopilot to drive.
Yeah.
But at some point, that's the future.
Yeah. Yep. I basically relayed the message that, look, it's okay to say something back to him. You won't get in trouble.
Now, you say something aggressive to my kid and he comes home upset about it, I'm going to fuck you up.
Some aggressive, yeah, exactly. And we're gonna have a conversation. Yeah. My initial knee-jerk reaction was for him to say, you probably don't get good grades, huh? Because I'm not fat at all. You're not very smart. You're not really a bright guy.
I would imagine the kid was older than bigger than him.
The kid was definitely a year older and the best player. Dude, Chris, these kids.
And here's what you say.
These kids nowadays, man.
If I'm fat, you're bigger than me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The kids are incredible. It's unbelievable.
It's wild. It's wild, man.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't play sports anymore.
Yeah, me too.
Haroon?
You got anything?
You want to share a story about your daughter today?
Yeah, man. I told Chris before the show. Major milestone in the Omar household. Baby girl got her ears pierced.
I just saw the video.
Man.
I don't understand why you have heartburn over this.
Yeah.
She's growing up, man.
I mean, it's...
Yeah, and I get that, but it's supposed to be a happy memory.
It's a very, very happy memory, but
you look like you got heartburn. You look like your daughter's dating.
She's very, very much. She picked out extra earrings. Like it's the whole idea of her, like liking to get dolled up and dressed up and this and that. And like it's no longer like playing dress up. Like it's reached a new level where she wants to. She views it
down. It's just ear piercings, man.
No. I'm saying, look,
some babies have their ear pierced when they're born.
No, I know, but because we waited until this one, we wanted to wait for her to tell us that I want to get my ears pierced now, right? And she was a little hesitant, even though some of her friends had been getting it. But today, somehow, she was brave enough to do it. And she did it. And it's different because she associates it, obviously, with being pretty, right? And I don't want her to feel like you need any of these other things to become pretty. You are already pretty. What makes you pretty are a number of other things. Anything you put on your body isn't what makes you pretty. But I can already see that the effects of society are starting to take place.
I mean, that's unavoidable, dude.
It's unavoidable. I know, but that's my point. It's the fact that it's now got here, and it's just that it's a milestone.
Then why are you
that
so
I wasn't
upset?
that I wasn't. I'm not upset. I said it's just I've reached this milestone that I didn't think I'd have to hit today. It's kind of like
you said you were gonna kill her boyfriend earlier.
you at least 30,
Yeah,
Reggie.
exactly.
Yeah, chitty chitty bang bang.
That's the Diddy national anthem.
That is it.
Yeah.
Chitty chitty.
Yeah.
Chitty chitty bang bang.
Well, now that Wholesome Dad has finished his usual routine, Haroon, you got anything?
Wholesome dad.
Nope, all done.
All right.
God damn.
Wholesome dad?
I always do this to myself. But the
You
dad
do.
hat on too.
Yeah.
So you got anything else?
No, I don't have any wholesome dad stories to share. I apologize.
Why?
I don't have any.
I need you to.
Oh, you guys are trying to hit that 2-hour mark, aren't you?
I'm really fucking with him.
Nobody's listening anyway.
Yeah, it's
Say whatever you want.
Yeah, fuck it. All right, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, do all the moist, goody, good, sassy
Who
frass.
cares about all that stuff? Leave a comment and
Did you say
reviews.
sassy frass?
Leave a comment and review. Sassafras. All right, good night, everybody.
Goodbye.
Fucking hate it.
You're gonna fuck me with dad shit. I'm giving you goodbye.
Fuck you, dude.